Let us see the first chapter of the book I Am Malala, written by Malala Yousafzai. This book, I Am Malala, is an autobiographical book written by Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani female educational activist, was born to Ziauddin Yousafzai in Mingora in the Swat Valley in 1997. She was an activist for the education and for women and children because the Pakistani Taliban had banned education for girls. In 2012, a Taliban gunman tried to assassinate her. This book, I Am Malala, it's a story of the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. This was a fully autobiographical book written by Malala Yousafzai with the help of Christina Lamb. It was published in 8th October 2013. So Malala Yousafzai born on 12 July 1997 and she was the Nobel Peace Prize laureate in the year 2014 at the age of only 17. She is the world's youngest Nobel Prize laureate. And she also made an appearance in the New York Times documentary on life in Pakistan under the Taliban. Malala became increasingly active in the media in spite of her young age. She gave interviews in which she criticized the rise of the violent religious extremist group, the Taliban, in her country. The Taliban forbade girls from education, but Malala advocated for girls' education rights. She says, "How dare the Taliban take away my basic right to education?" On 9th October 2012, a Taliban gunman shot Yousafzai as she rode home on bus after and taking an exam in Pakistan's Swat Valley. She was only 15 years old at that time. Malala made a full recovery from her bullet wounds and continued to actively campaign for women's rights in education. And this book, I Am Malala, it's a story of the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. And the first chapter of this book, Before the Taliban, is entitled as the Before the Taliban. And Before the Taliban indicates that these events take place in the first 11 years of Malala's life and before the Pakistan Taliban's invaded her home in the Swat Valley and upended her life. And this chapter one of this book flashes back and tells the story of Malala's birth to a Pashtun family in the Swat Valley of northern Pakistan. And the first chapter, she introduces herself and gives details about her birth and her parentage and her siblings, her life in Mingora, about the birth of Pakistan, and also she highlights the Yusufzai tribe and how she got her name after the courageous folklore heroine. And she was born on 12 July 1997 and later he became a Pakistani female educational activist. And Malala explains that she was born at dawn and traditionally a sign of luck in her community. But many people in the village still felt sorry for her family because Malala was a girl. But as she points out, women in her country are seen as second class citizens and they are fit only for making food and birthing more children. And Malala notes that her father Ziauddin acted unusually when she was born. It is traditional for the birth of sons to be celebrated, not daughters, but Ziauddin was very proud of his daughter from the beginning. Malala was named after Malala of Maiwand. She was a Pakistan heroine, as she is the Pashtun heroine. And she is famous for using her courage to inspire her people to fight against the British Army. And here Malala and notes that the Battle of Maven here, and she remembers the part of Second Anglo-Afghan War in this first chapter. And Malala was named after this Afghanistan heroine Malala of Mavent. And this Malala of Mavent was only a teenager at the time. And she set aside married life and to become a general and warrior. But British soldiers killed her. But her troops eventually defeated the British. And she was born to a Yusufzai Pashtun family in Swat. Malala remembers that she was born in the Yusufzai Pashtun family. She was very proud of that, and she explains that her surname Yusufzai. It's a clan name rather than a personal family name. Yusufzai is a clan name of that, and that Yusufzai Afghans historically are one of the largest tribes in ethnic Pashtuns. And she lives in Swat Valley, and it is considered to be a very beautiful place, and is full of fruits, trees, rivers, and forests. And Malala considers that the most beautiful place in the world. The Swat Valley is the most beautiful place in the world according to Malala. And Malala and her family live in the village of Mingora, the largest town in Swat. And that Swat has been an Islamic town since 11th century. Peria, it was a Buddhist state, and there are still ruins of Buddhist temples in Swat nowadays. And obviously, Malala's family is very poor. Despite founding the first school for girls in Mingora, Malala's father and his family live in the shack. And Malala's family and found that school even in the poor state. And Malala's family frequently entertains visitors, cooking for them and spending time with them. And here Malala notes that hospitality, Malala explains, is a crucial part of her culture. She is very proud of that culture, her culture and custom, and she proudly says that hospitality is very, they are, she proud of that hospitality nature of her culture. Malala has two younger brothers named as Kushal and Atal. And Malala's brother Kushal is named after their father's school which he attends. Her younger brother Atal is 7 years younger than she. And Malala's father, unlike the majority of men, never hits his wife, whose name is Topekai. And Topekai and Zodin had an unusual marriage. It's a love marriage. And this is very highly rare in Pakistan. Malala notes these things in her the first chapter. And Malala is continues to describing her family, her parentage, her siblings, and also she proudly says her mother, Pakai, is very religious and always prays 5 times a day as she is the Muslim custom. And Zuadin was very busy in writing poetry and organizing literary societies and taking measures to preserve the environment in a valley. Malala grew up respecting the power of language largely as a result of her father's influence. And he teaches her to respect the environment, literature, and poetry, and to understand the power of words also. This will become more important as Malala becomes a public speaker and writer. And growing up, Malala noticed that as a woman, she was restricted from traveling where she wanted. And from an early age, however, Malala decided that she wouldn't let the sexism of her society stifle her. As she puts it, women in her country are seen as second class citizens, and they are fit only for making food and birthing and more children. Growing up and Malala from the early age, and she wouldn't let the sexism of her society stifle her. And Malala's family is descended from the Yusufzai. That Yusufzai is a very noted Pashtun tribe who celebrated combat as well as poetry. Thus, Yusufzai feuded with one another constantly, but in 1917, one Yusufzai warrior managed to impose order on the Swati Valley. His son, Zahanzib, and brought great wealth and prosperity to the valley. And Swat Valley remained an autonomous and state until 1969. In 1969, the year Malala's father was born, the valley firmly united with Pakistan. Malala thinks of herself as Swati first, then Pashtun, and then Pakistani. She proudly says that, and she herself as a Swati first. She was proudly identified as a Swati first, and then Pashtun, and then she calls herself as a Pakistani. Her father encouraged her to be a free as a bird. And education is very important. These are the things that her father influenced her. On 9th October 2012, a Taliban gunman shot Yousafzai as she rode home on a bus after taking an exam in Pakistan's Swat Valley. And she was only 15 years old at that time. And Malala was constrained from traveling because she is a woman, and she decided not to let the sexism in her society. And her father urged her to and feel like a free bird. Thank you.